Good afternoon. I extend a very warm welcome to everyone joining us for today's Bussola Institute virtual roundtable entitled Furthering Human Fraternity Through Interreligious Dialogue and Exchange in the Wake of the Pandemic. As you are all only too aware, we are living in very uncertain and challenging times. The coronavirus pandemic is a human, economic, and social crisis that continues to profoundly affect societies across the world. At this time of global crisis, when discontent, isolation, and uncertainty are fueling exclusion and spreading animosity towards others, we are inspired by the principles enshrined in the document on human fraternity for world peace and living together, a truly historic expression of interfaith understanding signed by Pope Francis and the Grand Imam of Al-Azhar in Abu Dhabi in February 2019. Today, we will explore with our expert panel the importance of interreligious dialogue, addressing these global challenges, and the significance of the principles enshrined in the document on human fraternity. We will then move on to explore the scope for new initiatives that might be developed in response to the call in the document for the human fraternity principles to be translated into policies, decisions, and concrete actions. To stimulate our thinking on these practical proposals, we will also hear from two of our panelists about the enormously successful Nostra Aetate program, which has been inspiring and supporting those involved in interreligious dialogue in different faith communities across the world. I recall that Pope Francis, shortly after his election, called for more interreligious dialogue as a way of building bridges and establishing true links of friendship between all people. He pointed out that his title of pontiff means builder of bridges, and that it was his wish, and I quote, that the dialogue between us should help to build bridges connecting all people in such a way that everyone can see in the other, not an enemy, not a rival, but a brother or sister, be welcomed and embraced. End of quote. Bussola's aim also is to build bridges of understanding and cooperation between the peoples of Europe and the Gulf to meet common global challenges. Therefore, all of us at Bussola are delighted to host today's event, as this is exactly the type of debate that will benefit the people of both regions in terms of greater understanding and increased dialogue, thereby building a real potential for common action in the future. Today, we are honored to be joined by 6 panelists who are deeply immersed in interfaith dialogue, and each of whom has a unique perspective and background. They will share their individual insights with us. Today, we've 6 panelists, which is far more than we normally have for our webinar, but we are very anxious to get as wide a range of perspectives as we possibly can, and we are getting those today from very experienced people. I will briefly introduce each panelist when it's their turn to speak. And to begin with, it gives me enormous pleasure to introduce Her Excellency Sheikha Najla Al-Kazemi. And Najla is currently the Director of Global Affairs at Behout, the Public Policy Center in the United Arab Emirates. And among many other things that she's done throughout her lifetime, Najla has served as the UAE ambassador to Sweden, Denmark, Finland, and Portugal. Najla, you are most welcome, and thank you so much for being with us. And I'll start by asking you maybe to comment on maybe the first question. Having worked at the UAE mission in the United Nations on human rights and humanitarian issues, and indeed as UAE ambassador, as I've said, to a number of European countries. Could you give us, please, your perspective on how the document on human fraternity reinforces the bond of fundamental human rights across societies, East and West? Najla.
Thank you, Ron, for this introduction, and thank you for Bussola for organizing such a timely discussion. Let me give a general idea about the subject and how we see it in the United Arab Emirates. We believe in United Arab Emirates that this region, the Middle East, was the land of the religion, at least the Abrahamic religion, which been through history played a very important role in the historical timeline of this region. Some are, we were blessed by having followers of this religion, but some dismissed using it and end up in very long and if I may say, sorry, events that happened through history. We believe here in this region that religion came to give us peace and to give us prosperity, not the other way around. And having said that, also I would like to emphasize the role that we see ourselves here in the GCC country, in the Gulf region, as a crossroad to civilization between East and West. Which explain why this important document was signed here in the United Arab Emirates, because of the image that we see ourselves as a welcoming nation for cross-culture and cross-religion society. Since the establishment of the United Arab Emirates, this development happened organically in this part of the world. Through history, we had people coming from the subcontinent with different religion, Hindu, and they established their business here with people coming from the Abrahamic religion. So this idea of living together with diversity is important since the establishment of the United Arab Emirates in this, and it develops later on with the, of course, growing society and the modernity of life and its needs. Now, United Arab Emirates consists of majority of expatriates who live in this land, and they have needs and they have to express their religious belief. And of course, it has to be a combination between the two sides of the equation, if I may say so. The government have the obligation to provide these people the possibility to express themselves and to live their life normally. And that's why United Arab Emirates supported the establishment of faith houses. And all the faith houses that exist in the United Arab Emirates, they have the possibility to establish their own places to worship according to their religion. And also to engrave in the society of the United Arab Emirates that we respect each other, not because of being a Muslim country that we don't respect other religion. On the contrary, our children grow up learning that they are sharing this community with their neighbor from different religion, from different background and culture. And I think I will leave it at that point. Maybe I will add later on about the United Arab Emirates in particular, what they did on the next session that I have, because I don't want to take too much of the time of my colleagues. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Najla, for that. And thank you for being succinct. It's great. Thanks a lot. Now we will turn to our second guest, and it's my great honor to have Father Marcus Solo with us. Father Marcus is an official at the Pontifical Council for Interreligious Dialogue in the Vatican in Rome. And he is also vice president of the Nostra Aetate Foundation in the Vatican. He does many other things as well, but they're the two main ones that we'll talk about today. And Father Marcus, as an official at the Pontifical Council for International Dialogue in the Vatican, specializing in Christian-Muslim dialogue, can you outline why interreligious dialogue is so important in today's world?
Thank you, Excellency, for the introduction and for organizing such an extremely important webinar with a very important topic. To our experience and to our reflection, Catholics are strongly engaged in interreligious dialogue. First of all, due to a divine call given by the Lord Jesus himself, who says on the context of the Sermon of the Mount, "Blessed are the peacemakers, they shall be recognized as children of God." Matthew 5:9. And the work of this Pontifical Council for Interreligious Dialogue in the Vatican on behalf of the Universal Roman Catholic Church to promote interreligious dialogue for peace and harmony is based primarily on this divine call, but also on the new attitudes expressed in a very special document ratified on 28 October 1965 during the Second Vatican Council. You know all these documents, surely, Nostra Aetate document. The Catholic Church decided to open itself to the increasing plurality of the world and finds its mission in encounters with people of different religions in order to know them and to promote love and unity. There is no other way, and nobody can dismiss the reality of increasing plurality. Catholics deem interreligious dialogue as an integral part of the evangelizing mission in order to give testimony to love, truth, peace, and reconciliation taught by Jesus Christ. And we believe that we and all world religions are here on the world for a purpose and for a mission. And religion must offer a solution for the various problems of the world. They should not be part of problems, but on the contrary, part of solutions. And the Catholic Church states very clearly in the document Nostra Aetate that it rejects nothing that is holy and true in every religion. On the contrary, Catholics would like to meet others in an atmosphere of respect and understanding. And we Catholics keep promoting interreligious dialogue as we are deeply convinced that other religions often reflect also a ray of the truth, which enlightens us Catholics. And by saying this, we don't want to say that all religions are equal. No. We would like to say that all seekers of God have the same dignity and the same rights. As regards dialogue with Muslims, the document Nostra Aetate states very clear in paragraph 3 that the Catholic Church regards with esteem the Muslims, emphasizing at the same time that we have much in common, both spiritual commonalities and a common mission. We have a lot of spiritual elements in our sacred scriptures, starting from the believing in one God, Jesus, Mary, the day of judgment, and the way of piety through prayers, fasting, and almsgiving, and many more. And we Christians, Muslims have a common call by God to work together for the benefit of all in the 4 key areas mentioned by the document: social justice, moral values, peace, and freedom. And regarding the document, as mentioned before, Human Fraternity, It has been stated clearly by Pope Francis and the Grand Imam of Al-Aqsa, Dr. Ahmad At-Tayyib, that we all have the common call in order to realize three aspects of the document. First of all, the culture of dialogue as a way of life, and common collaboration as conduct. And third one is mutual knowledge as method and criterion. Besides all these reasons, we are all aware that demographically, Christian and Muslims, we all constitute more than the half of world population. And if we could live peacefully together, this will be a huge contribution to world peace. In a nutshell, I would like to say, for the Catholic Church, for our work here, we have to say that dialogue, interreligious dialogue, is an indispensable way towards peace and harmony. It is not a choice, but a necessity. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Father Marcus. We'll be back to talk to you again about Nostra Aetate
Yes.
and in a while. I would now like to introduce a former student of yours, Mrs. Haja Sarah Handang. And Haja Sarah is a senior education program specialist in Mindanao in Philippines. And she has worked extensively in the Philippines as a facilitator and lecturer for interreligious dialogue. As I said, Haja Sarah is a former student of the Nostra Aetate Foundation program in Rome, and we'll talk to you about that later today. But for the moment, Haja Sarah, you're most welcome. We're really so happy to have you here with us. And just want to ask you, in the Philippines, you are involved in frontline interreligious dialogue at the community level. Can you tell us how important is this work to your community?
Thank you, His Excellency. Decades of war and conflict in the Philippines between the government and the armed groups have brought about countless wars, displacing people from their homes, causing lives and damage to properties. This situation brought about economic decline, unemployment, out-of-school youth, animosity, chaos, hatred among people, especially here in Mindanao, the southern part of the Philippines. Although there are efforts of the government to bring peace in Mindanao, but there are still issues brought about by political, feudal conflicts, and issues on the ancestral domain, which is unsolved to date. As an educator for 36 years and a peace advocate, I saw how children suffered in terms of educational opportunities, trauma of living in a conflict zone. The physical and the psychological effects of this are like volatile substance that can be a source of the cycle of violence if not properly addressed. This is where interreligious dialogue is very important in my country, especially here in Mindanao. By understanding our differences through interreligious dialogue, creates a space among people across faith, lay differences, and work for a common good. Thus, practicing love of God, love of neighbor, coexistence, seamless love and compassion to each other as one big human family can be best attained through interreligious dialogue. This transcendental value creates a fraternal atmosphere, as stated in the documents of Human Fraternity, signed by Pope Francis and the Grand Imam of Al-Azhar, Imam Ahmad Tayyab. Education is an avenue to promote interreligious dialogue. By educating our children in school and inculcating in their young minds the value of living a life in dialogue is a lifetime legacy. To attain peace and harmony and cut the cycle of violence among people across culture and faith. Creating or cross-cutting our educational curriculum and integrate across subject areas lessons that can develop a child to practice spiritual, moral, socio-cultural values is an effective and efficient, steady way for interreligious dialogue to thrive in the educational system. Developing a child that knows how to respect human dignity, accepts their differences without jeopardizing what they believe, would eventually addresses conflict that may come across as they grow up, and that the child should learn how to build trust and strong relationship among people, regardless of their creed, culture, and traditions. More so, educating them with their faith properly will be their shield that will build resilience from joining any armed group that uses religion at the guise to attain their own ideology. This is how important interreligious dialogue in my country. We want to build a nation free from conflict and wars. Interreligious dialogue is one of the avenues, and education is the best vehicle to achieve it. I want to end this talk by saying, plant a seed of interreligious dialogue now and reap the fruit of peaceful society for generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Haja Sarah. Thank you. Thanks a lot for that. And our next panelist today is Father Manuel Enrique Barrios Prieto. And thank you so much, Father Manuel, for joining us. Father Manuel is the General Secretary of COMESE, the Commission of the Bishop Conferences of the European Union in Brussels. He is also, and even more important than that, he's a great friend and supporter of mine and of Bussola Institute, and indeed has participated in many of our events already over the past couple of years. Thank you so much, Father Manuel. And I just ask you a question which will relate a little to the EU. How can the values and the ideas enshrined in the document on human fraternity support positive action and influence EU policies and practices for unity and cooperation? And all of this at a time of increasing religious diversity in Europe. So over to you.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much, first of all, for this invitation, for this very interesting meeting and webinar we're having today, this afternoon here in Brussels. I think the topic is very interesting, and answering your question, this document on human fraternity was signed, as we know, in Abu Dhabi in 2019, in February 2019, by Pope Francis and the Grand Imam of Al-Azhar. And it was signed in Abu Dhabi because Abu Dhabi was hosting then the tolerance year, the year of tolerance. And this, I think, was, in one sense, this document was a climax of dialogues that were going, that were taking place before this document was signed between the Vatican and Al-Azhar, and the University of Al-Azhar, which represents the Sunnite community in a big sense. It also was the beginning, I think, of a process that is continuing now. So what is the importance of this document for me? And maybe we can extrapolate this to possible EU policies. Well, the concept of this document, the main concept or the main reality we want of this document is human fraternity. Mm-hmm. Human fraternity. This was taken later also by Pope Francis in his encyclical letter that he signed on the tomb of Saint Francis, Fratelli Tutti. And I think this is also the background of the trip, the apostolic journey that Pope Francis did to Iraq this year. And also the theme of human fraternity was in the motto of this trip. So what does this mean? I think it means to understand not only with the head, but with the heart, that we are all brothers and sisters. This is the main issue. We are all brothers and sisters. We belong to the same and unique human family. We have different religions, and they have to be respected. We're not trying to make a big religion that unifies all. Or we don't want to go down to the common denominator between us. No, we all respect our religions, and we all treasure our religions, and we all find our truth in our religion. But there is something that in some way, I wouldn't say overcomes them, but in some way unites them. That is the fact that we're all part of the same human family. We're all brothers and sisters. And this can be interpreted in different ways according to the different religious traditions. For Islam, this is due to the fact that we all are descendants of Adam and Eve. In the Christian understanding, the fact that we're brothers and sisters is more related to the fact that we are creatures of the same creator, and that we are all children of God. We belong to the same family. I think when we understand this, and this I think brings a shift of paradigm, brings a change in attitudes in our lives, and brings a shift of paradigms in the way we do policies. Because then we see the other person, whether he's marginalized, whether he's a refugee, whether he is somebody that we don't really recognize, well, we see him as a brother and sister. And when he's in a situation of distress, we feel compassion. And this is a very important feeling, a very important sentiment. And we feel called to help him, to take care of him. So this concept of human fraternity that is present in this document signed in Abu Dhabi, and is the basis of this document, is also present in Fratelli Tutti, and is present in, I think, because when the Pope went to Iraq, he met with al-Sistani. So I think with the Ayatollah al-Sistani, so it's all, I think, a way of seeing humanity that invites us to change our narratives and to change our perspective. So I think this is the important thing of this document. And this can inspire European policies. Why? Because I think the concept of human fraternity is also very related to the concept of human dignity. So it's at the core of the values of the European Union. Fraternity is not something external or a new value, but it's in the basis of the nature of the essence of the European Union. So that's my way of seeing it. I see this document of the human fraternity and the encyclical letter and the trip that the Pope did to Iraq and what he's doing now in interreligious dialogue as really an invitation to change our way of seeing things. Just to conclude, how can interreligious dialogue help us in this? I've been involved in interreligious dialogue for many years because I've been in charge of interreligious dialogue in the Diocese of Madrid and in the Spanish Bishops' Conference. So how can religious dialogue help us in this? I think it helps us to have this idea come from a head to a heart. When we meet with other people and we have interreligious dialogue and we open our hearts, we get to understand deeply that the person in front of us, even if he's of another religion, he is my brother and my sister. And I think this is why interreligious dialogue is so important. So I'll leave it there, and maybe we can continue with the comments and discussions between us.
Thank you, Father Manuel. That's great. I would now like to turn to Father Edmund Grace, who is Secretary for Justice and Ecology at the Jesuit European Social Centre in Brussels. He's also a member of Ireland's National Dialogue on Climate Action. And Father Edmund, I warmly welcome you and thank you so much for being part of the team today. Just to maybe go to the document on human fraternity from a slightly different angle, and maybe ask, the document on human fraternity requires us to come together in response to global challenges, big and small, particularly challenges, for example, such as climate change, in which I know you have a great interest. How can the ideas and values of the document support our efforts, for example, to address climate change?
Okay, well, again, I would like to thank you, John, and the Institute for this opportunity, because it's also it's kind of nudged me in a direction I kind of was aware of, but I haven't really gone in, and that is to dialogue with people of other religions more. I've done some, nothing like Father Manuel, but I have done over the years, encountered people and talked with them. And I think I go back to the encyclical Laudato Si, which has very much shaped my work and life over the last number of years, as in my work on ecology. But one of the things that Laudato Si emphasizes is the need to dialogue, and the need for different kinds of dialogue, including, very much so, interreligious dialogue. And not just as a kind of a concession, but as part of the way we live our faith. The mystery of God is so much greater than any of us can imagine. And we can't just kind of set up our own little places that we say are right. We've got to we have our faith, we have our beliefs, we have our heritage, and the teachings we've inherited, but they are all the time part of a search. And part of the search increasingly is encountering people of other religions and hearing what they have to say and being affected by what they have to say. And one of the things that I found really powerful in this document comes at near the very beginning, where it talks about God who created the universe, creatures, all human beings, and then in brackets it has an extraordinary few words. It says, human beings equal on account of his mercy. I find that an extraordinary. Human equality linked with mercy is something, for me, makes me sit up and think I haven't seen that put together in that way before. And the document then goes on and talks of in the name of God. And it repeats this phrase, in the name of this, the name of different human situations where really people are suffering from the inhumanity of others. This is where God is present in a very powerful way. And this is where, when we pay attention to it, we're kind of knocked off balance. This is not something you can come to with a measuring line. Human equality isn't about measurement. It is about encounter. It is about learning, I think, from that encounter and being changed by it. And I think, for me, it sort of says a number of things. One, human situations can't be measured in that sort of objective way. It has to be a question of the heart. It has to be a question of stories told, people being affected by those stories. Yes, and then we need to find ways forward. That involves measurement. That involves decisions, that involves administrative machinery, it involves legal systems, all of that. And the second thing, which is united to that, is bureaucratic solutions aren't enough, because if they're just left at the level of bureaucracy, it's heartless. There is no reaction. Everything is defined. And also, people dealing with that kind of reality are inevitably humiliated because they're defined, they're packaged, they're measured. So that's, I think, very important. And finally, justice, according to Aristotle, which is a heritage we all share, Jewish, or Muslim and Christian, and Jewish too, is about striking a balance. But that balance isn't struck by, with a measuring line. That balance is struck by people encountering one another and coming to a mutual understanding. So I'll just leave it at that. I said enough for the time being.
Thank you very much, Father Edmund. We now turn to our final panelists, and Mr. Stephen Biller. Stephen, my sincerest thanks to you for joining us today. Stephen was director of the Robert Schuman Foundation in the European Parliament before he retired. He's also a former principal administrator in the European Parliament and was founder of the working group on Islam in the European Parliament. So, Stephen, my question to you is, it's maybe making things a little bit practical. What practical initiatives do you think should be taken to increase mutual understanding and cross-cultural awareness in pursuit of the principles outlined in the document on human fraternity? I know you could speak for an hour on it, but just to give us an outline of what practical initiatives you see. So over to you, Stephen.
To meet you through this web seminar. I would like to offer some proposals corresponding to the ambition of the document, some of which may jar some nerves around you. Because these proposals have consequences that could go beyond society in Europe. I would like these proposals to be considered in the sense that new generations of Christians and Muslims could, from the implementation of the proposals, achieve new relationships. The spin-off in the wider Muslim world would stimulate, I feel, a process of renewal and reflection, ijtihad and tajdeed, which would enable Muslims, new generations of Muslims, particularly in Europe, to be more comfortable in the expression of their faith. Now, the social situation in which Muslims find themselves in Europe and the political controversies generated around the ability of society to welcome them or to dislike them are well known, and I think you're all well aware of that. So I would like to go straight in to these proposals. The document on human fraternity is necessarily the starting point for all of this discussion. And I would like to quote, "Dialogue means coming together in the vast space of spiritual, human, and shared values, transmitting the highest moral that religion aims for. It means avoiding unproductive discussions." Now, I would like you to consider the following. Religious education of young Muslims in Europe is usually offered around the mosque using teaching materials supplied by religious and governmental agencies in the countries of origin of immigrant families. A particular case, for instance, is Turkey, where religious instruction is provided by the Diyanet, a specialized government agency, and televised material is communicated through geostationary satellites with a footprint covering Europe, Russia, Central Asia, and the Middle East. Now, we also know that supplementary religious material is distributed by the Royal Embassy of Saudi Arabia in the capitals of European member states. The content of this material and others is well researched and can be consulted. It's published by the Human Rights Watch and from time to time by the United States Congress. And all of this material is opposed to the harmonious integration of young Muslims and for the acceptance of others. And it is the major reason for the proposals which I would like to put to you. So how do we go about making for a harmonious integration and acceptance by Muslims of others in the European scene? And may I say, pari passu, similar initiatives could be introduced for Christians to understand Muslims too. So I suggest that we use the experience of the Catholic Church in religious education to write religious textbooks for Muslim children in primary and secondary education, publication and distribution in the national languages of European states, a catechism for Muslims, say, and a syllabus on Islamic apologetics. Next, to create a Muslim religious examination syllabus where such syllabus does not already exist for inclusion in the baccalaureate. I feel that this would give Islam as such a particular respectability academically and socially in the European scene. Next, to propose to the Al-Azhar al-Sharif and to the Catholic Church that implementation of the document on human fraternity should be their special joint mission, and organizationally this would have to be catered for. Next, to agree priority for a joint forum of Islamic and Catholic experts for the design and development of the European syllabus for Islamic religious education and for religious teaching material, and for the creation of the Imamate for pastoral service in Europe. That would, of course, be a tertiary qualification in which, of course, the European Commission would have a competence since the competence for primary and secondary education lies elsewhere. I come to that now. To bridge the religious and political dimension of this work on the syllabus for young Muslims in Europe, submitting the syllabus, once it had been prepared, to the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe in Strasbourg for recommendation of the syllabus to ministers of education in member states. The Catholic Church, being an observer state at the Council of Europe, would be well placed to table such an initiative. Next, to inform ministers responsible for education in European national governments. That's a task that the Church could undertake through nuncios in the capitals of member states. And finally, to inform leaders of Muslim communities in European states of the development of the document on human fraternity and on this particular initiative in order to prepare them for what would be a dramatic change in the way their children are educated in the European scene. So in conclusion, I think that the document on human fraternity opens a valuable new history in the course of human salvation. And Muslims and Catholics, like you are doing in the Bussola Institute, are called upon to match the shared act of Al-Azhar al-Sharif Ahmed Tayyib and His Holiness Pope Francis. I would like our follow-up, your follow-up in the Bussola Institute, to reflect the love and esteem which the Pope and Al-Azhar al-Sharif have shown to one another. I would like to thank the United Arab Emirates for hosting the Al-Azhar Sharif Ahmed Tayyib and Pope Francis for the adoption of the document on human fraternity. In this event, the United Arab Emirates became the first moral power in the Islamic world, next to the unique moral superpower that is the Holy See. Our meeting and this document acknowledge the profound vision of the Al-Nahyan and Al-Sayed families for a new world of people of faiths, so beautifully expressed by the first speaker. I would like to think that my suggestions are in proportion to the scale of the vision shown by these two families and for the commitment of the United Arab Emirates to the new world. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Stephen. Thank you for those excellent suggestions. And I return now to Father Marcus, and we will try and constrict the answers now so that we get as much in. I'd like you just to fill us in on the Nostra Aetate Study Grants Programme and how this programme fosters interreligious dialogue and understanding. So, Father Marcus.
Thank you, Excellency. Dialogue and collaboration have been always two important pillars in the work of the promotion of peace and harmony, dialogue and collaboration. And the Catholic Church, we all are always aware that a fruitful dialogue for peace and harmony presumes unconditionally sound mutual knowledge, because we know that ignorance has caused too many conflicts, divisions, and moral decadence. Even in the Human Fraternity document, Pope Francis and Grand Imam At-Tayyib emphasized the importance of education. We believe and we state clearly that those people who are engaged in interreligious dialogue must be well-formed and informed, well-rooted in their own religion, and must be also prepared to know people of other religions, their religion and their faith as well. Because we also believe, as stated always, faith opens somebody towards others. And therefore, in 1990, Pope John Paul II established a foundation being integrated in our Pontifical Council for Interreligious Dialogue, where I'm working. So over the years, around more than 200 students from different religions, particularly Muslims, Hindus, and Buddhists from all over the world, have benefited from the Nostra Aetate Foundation. And we ourselves also, we feel very much enriched through this foundation and through the collaboration with the students from all over the world. And one of the students is also here present, Haja Sarah Handang from the Philippines. Excellency, now perhaps you can then move to her. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. And I now turn to Haja Sarah, and I just want again for you to describe briefly your experience with the Nostra Aetate study grants program and how it has supported your efforts when you came back home to your own community in the Philippines. Sorry, your microphone is off. Your microphone is turned off.
Okay, it's okay now.
Did you hear my question? You did?
Yes, I did.
Great, go ahead.
Alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given me the opportunities to be as one of the scholar of Nostra Aetate Foundation. And I am the first Filipino student from the Philippines who was able to get this opportunity to study in Rome. I was so afraid to go because it's the seat of the Catholic Church, but then I prayed a lot. I prayed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that if it is His will, that if He has His mission, why I'm going there, so be it. My family had supported me, and when I reached there, at the first sight of Father Marcos in the airport, bringing a plaque bearing my name, give me an ease that indeed I am welcome in Rome. So that the experience that I have in Angelicum University was really an amazing experience, that all my peers that I got from here going there was all gone. Plus the people that I have experience with in the lay center who treated me like their own without even thinking that I am coming from the other part of the world. And so these all actions are speaker than the words, greater than the words, sounder than the words, or louder than the words that they have expressed to me. The actions and the gestures, the treatment that I have from the people around the Nostra Aetate, to the school, to my professors, really had contributed a lot to my learning. And knowing Christian doctrines made me strong more and even more as a Muslim. And the profound respect that I have for my brothers and sisters Catholic was even greater and enrooted, that we are brothers and sisters and we are coming from one big family. Coming home with the hope that and enthusiasm that I will be bringing home what I have learned. Alhamdulillah, God has given me this opportunity, this position in the Department of Education to be able to introduce curriculum that really has to talk about the love of God, the love of nature, the love of the country, and the respect to human dignity, which is embedded in the human fraternity. Alhamdulillah, with the opportunity, I was able to, with the help of the Department of Education, we were able to prop up some modules, some module lessons from kindergarten to grade 12 that really has integrated the teaching of interreligious dialogue in the public schools and the private schools. So this really had transcended all the animosities, all the fears, because Philippines was really conquered by some countries for more than 500 years. So you got that influence. And now, little by little, alhamdulillah, with the effects of the education that we are giving, and plus the opportunities and the studies that we have as an educator, it really helped me a lot. In the disposition of my responsibility as the head of the department for Madrasa Education Program, I was able to really make my part, alhamdulillah, for the betterment and making interreligious dialogue as part of our life. Interreligious dialogue cannot thrive just in mind, but it should be in the heart. And if it is in the heart, it should be the way of life. That is our objective for our children here in the Philippines.
Thank you, Haji Sarah. Thank you for that. And I'd now like to go to Najla again. And Najla, just maybe again as succinctly as possible, how can the values and ideas in the document support peace building and end global conflicts? Just leading on from what Haji Sarah was saying there.
As a former diplomat and a policy analyst at the moment, how do I see this document? I see this document as a facilitator for future dialogue. It's a document that will give the chance for the policy implementer to take it and try to come up with ideas to fulfill the values that comes from this document. As previous speakers very well explained, and the young people of now society are aspiring for a better life, better living condition, better understanding for their dreams and the possibility to fulfill them. So what United Arab Emirates aspire to do through facilitating the signature of this document is creating this platform. Now what we can see, for example, in Palestine, it's a very sad situation that we see. And one of the main point that United Arab Emirates emphasize in dialogue is that you can't solve a conflict without creating a platform for people to talk and to understand the needs of each other. So from here came the creation of the Abrahamic Accord, and then the establishment of the Higher Committee for Human Fraternity that came after the signature of this document. And also we saw this committee suggesting the Abrahamic Family House, which hosts the three main Abrahamic religion. That doesn't mean that we are excluding other religions. Just to answer one of the questions that came from the audience, the other religions are important, and there is a room to include other religion in the future. And this institutional building create a platform for further discussion and further inclusion of all faith of the religion. And United Arab Emirates, through its policy, created the possibility for Hindu, for other religion to establish their temple in the country, and they have access to the decision maker in the country in order to contribute with their ideas and their suggestion into the future dialogue. And thank you.
Thank you very much, Najla. Before I move on, and we're running out of time, you mentioned, Najla, there a question that had been asked. Another one has been asked by a person for whom I've enormous regard, and she's looking in and listening, Mary McAleese, who's the former president of Ireland. And she asked the question, the Catholic Church and the Gulf Islamic states both do a lot of NGO outreach work to the poor. They normatively work separately, but is there value in working together, creating, for example, a joint Peace Corps style initiative, which would bring young people of diverse religions into each other's orbit as collaborators for the common good? Father Manuel, would you like to give an answer to that, or if there's anybody else would like to contribute? But maybe Father Manuel, would you like to respond to that, please?
That's a very, very important aspect of interreligious dialogue. It's doing things together for the common good. I think this is very important. There are a lot of areas in which we can work together, persons of different religions, for the common good, for the good of humanity. For example, one mentioned the help to the poor and the vulnerable people. I think we can do things together, institutionalized in a platform, or even by private initiative. There's a lot of things we can do. Also, in the area that is so dear to Father Edmund, the care for our common home, the care of ecology, we can do things together. So that's a very important aspect of interreligious dialogue. Religious dialogue has different aspects. One of them is, for example, what we call a theological dialogue. And sometimes we tend to identify interreligious dialogue with theological dialogue. But it's not only that. It's important that experts come together and exchange views on their religion, on their theology. That's theological dialogue. There's mystical dialogue, when we come together to share our spiritual gifts. There is also a dialogue of life. When we live together with people of different religion and we encounter them and we dialogue with them, we get to know each other. And that's very important in Europe, I think. And then there's this dialogue of doing things together. And I think this is very important. So yes, this I think is very important.
Thank you very much for an excellent answer to a great question. And we'll have to finish very shortly. But maybe if I could ask you as succinctly or as briefly as you can, Father Edmund, maybe to, in a way, I'm going to ask how religion can support, solutions informed by scientific study. Global challenges such as the pandemic and climate change require responses based on science. How can religion support solutions informed by scientific study? Now, I know again, you could write 10 books on this, but in about 4 sentences, please.
Okay, there's an English philosopher, Walter Bagehot, who talks about 2 elements of government: the efficient, which does the work, and what he calls the dignified or the symbolic, which evokes the reverence of the people. That's the word he uses, reverence. And we need to find ways of evoking that quality of reverence for the particular task, which involves a lot of science, to put it mildly, of caring for our common home. It needs the science, it needs the meticulous attention to the use of resources, but it also needs to appeal to the heart and to appeal to a vision of our beautiful world as a gift from God. And we need to find ways of talking that awakens that sense of solidarity and reverence for our common home.
Thank you very much indeed. And thank you very much indeed. And I think, unfortunately, because we are limiting our session to 1 hour, that we have to pull the thing to a close. And I'm sorry about that. We've lots of other questions. However, the good news is this has been part of a journey for Bussola, and we will continue on this journey. So we've had a wide range of, in fact, this today is our 17th webinar during lockdown, say in the past 14, 15 months. And we will be continuing with those and hopefully with face-to-face events soon back in Brussels. But we will certainly do more projects on interfaith dialogue. And indeed, I would love to have you all back with us again. So I really will pull everything to a close on the basis that I promised everybody that we would end on the hour. And just on behalf of the board of directors of Bussola and on my own behalf, we're enormously grateful to everybody involved in today's webinar. And my very, very special thanks to our 6 expert panelists, Sheikh Najla, Father Marcus, Ajasera, Father Manuel, Father Edmund, and Stephen. And I am very thankful to you for your invaluable contributions to today's stimulating discussion that could have gone on and on and on. And if we were back in a room, we probably would have gone on, and for sharing your views and your insightful analysis. And I really appreciate the time that each one of you invested in today's webinar, because apart from today, I've had meetings with each one of you individually, and indeed, I know you've given a lot of thought to what you'd say today. I'm also very grateful to all of our guests today, and we've a large number of people listening in, and also to our YouTube audience, and this will be available on YouTube again into the future. And I look forward very much to seeing you all very soon again. We will, of course, prepare a report on today's virtual roundtable, and we'll make that available on our website, and indeed to anybody who would like us to send it to you. I also would like finally to thank all of my own colleagues at Bussola for their ongoing commitment and support. And again, my sincerest thanks to every one of you for being with us. Take care, stay safe, and I hope to see each one of you very soon again on at another event, but hopefully in our headquarters in Brussels. Thank you all very, very much. Thanks a lot.